we have Bella Thorne. When Bella Thorne and Tana Mongeau had their first public Twitter feud, Bella would share a tweet after she was left humiliated by her two exes going on a date together. Bella would say, "Tana and I are no longer good. She broke girl code. I'm over it." Tana would then fire back by saying, "Imagine taking every time you're mad at me to Twitter, but telling people how much you care about me. WTF is this B?" Bella would then end up accusing Tana for dating her on Twitter by saying, "How about you answer your phone and talk to me instead of being on Twitter?" Tana would then respond by saying, "I've been texting you every minute since you tweeted, and you to be tweeting me something as hurtful as saying I dated you for Twitter is literally effing nuts. And if you honestly think that, damn, I lost you." The embarrassment wouldn't even stop there, as a couple months later, Bella would even release a song called Stupid Effing B, and she would promote it on TikTok, and she would say when she tries so hard to be relevant, she won't stop bringing your name up for attention. Girl, can't you get your own attention? Which indicated she was throwing some major shade. Tana would then come out to throw some major shade back, and she would end up humiliating Bella Thorne when she reacted to Bella's song and said that she didn't have any friends and hinted that everybody in the industry pretty much hates her. Number 9, Lindsay Lohan. Not that we should really care or anything, but Paris Hilton has a knack for trying to humiliate Lindsay Lohan, and you think because the heiress is now 41 years old, she would just leave the high school drama alone, but she can't just leave the past at the past. During an appearance on Watch What Happens Live, Paris would be asked to say 3 nice things about Lindsay during a round of Plead the Fifth shenanigans. While we all thought she would actually say something nice for once, Paris would say she's beyond lame and embarrassing. While the two have had this off and on relationship since the early 2000s, the socialite and actress feud has pretty much kept gossip magazines alive. The feud between the two even got messy after Lindsay was first linked to one of Paris's ex-boyfriends. A few days later, Hilton would audibly laugh and join in humiliating Lindsay with Brandon Davis as they spoke down on Lindsay to the paparazzi. The pair would discuss how Lindsay's only worth $7 million, which meant she was poor, and they continued to call Lindsay disgusting because she lived in a hotel. To end things off, they would even brand Lindsay as a fire crotch, and they even questioned who would want to get with her in the first place. Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Coming in number 8, we have Demi Lovato. Miley Cyrus and Demi Lovato met on the set of Hannah Montana back in 2007, but they were quickly engulfed in drama after Miley and her friend Mandy released a video a year later that showed them mocking Demi and Selena about a YouTube video the friends made just days before. While Miley would take down the video and later apologize to Demi, Demi would address the fallout from the video in a 2012 interview with 17. Demi would say, "Miley and I are strong-headed. When we fight, it's brutal, and we're like, we're never gonna be friends again." 2 days later, we're like, "I love you and I miss you." In 2014, Demi said that her and Miley were just acquaintances, which a lot of us kinda already knew, because why would you stay friends with someone who humiliated you in front of the world? By 2020, however, the two seemed to put their drama behind as they spoke things out on Bright Minded Live with Miley, but how long they'll really stay on good terms for, who knows? Number 7, Lauren Conrad. The original stars of The Hills, Lauren Conrad and Heidi Montag, were involved in quite a few major spats during the time of the show. However, it all came to a head when Heidi and Spencer Pratt allegedly began spreading rumors about Lauren and her ex-boyfriend Jason Waller making an X-rated tape, which was actually super embarrassing and wrong for them to do to their friend. After Lauren skipped out on the couple's housewarming party, Heidi would confront her about it, and the fight would be shown on the show. Heidi would later go over to Lauren's apartment to apologize for the incident, but she would never admit to starting or spreading the rumors about her and the tape. Since the feud, Spencer has, on the other hand, admitted to playing a part in the rumors, and Lauren has said, "I think it's time to forgive and forget. I just want to forgive you, and I want to forget you." It seems like after the scene, Lauren and Heidi were not able to repair their friendship, and while Heidi wishes they could put the past behind them, Lauren has a pretty good reason to hold a judgment against her this time, because what kind of friend spreads a rumor like that? Number 6, Jordyn Woods. Jordyn Woods would find herself being humiliated by Kylie Jenner and the rest of her family after it was said that she hooked up with Khloe Kardashian's ex-boyfriend Tristan Thompson at a Los Angeles party back in 2019. While the whole scandal would become a very public and very humiliating thing, Jordyn would find herself being the only one punished. When the Kardashian family decided to cut ties with Jordyn, they would take it out on her, and they would even take her out of the family business deals, and they would continue to mock her in front of the whole world. While the sisters were wiping out all of Jordan's collabs on their lines, it's clear that Jordan and Kylie's friendship was finally over. Losing her friendship to Kylie was really hard on Jordan because for years the two were like sisters, and after one mistake, she would be asked to move out of Kylie's guest house and their friendship would be over. It seems like everyone decided to lose their cool on Jordan, and they forgot that it takes two to tango. And while it seems like the whole world jumped to call out Jordan, Tristan was able to walk away unscathed by the incident. While the whole family was more disappointed by the fact they never really knew who Jordan was, did they really have to humiliate the poor girl in front of the world? There's just something about airing out your grievances in front of the whole world to see that really just makes me want to cringe. Number 5, Britney Spears. Before they ended up dating, Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears were actually once good friends. However, in a documentary by the New York Times titled Framing Britney Spears, it would show how poor Justin treated Britney throughout their relationship. With Justin making Britney look like a villain that led to their breakup, his treatment would soon lead her on a downward spiral while he made an attempt to shatter her perfect girl next door image. While Britney went on to have many mental breakdowns over the relationship, as Justin ruined her golden girl image by claiming she slept with him in interviews. Justin would later apologize to Britney years later by saying, "I've seen the messages, tags, comments, and concerns, and I want to respond. I'm deeply sorry for the times in my life where my actions contributed to the problem, where I spoke out of turn or didn't speak up for what was right. I understand I fell short in these moments and in many others and benefited from them. A system that condones misogyny and racism. I want to apologize to Britney Spears and Janet Jackson, both individually, because I care and respect these women and I know I failed." But there was a sort of attitude when he first tried to humiliate her in the public eye. And I think it's safe to say that if times were still different, we would have never seen this apology. Number 4, Jessica Simpson. When Jessica Simpson and her best friend Ken Paves broke up, they were not on speaking terms, and media outlets started posting a slew of back and forth quotes from Jessica and Ken's team. While the messages were definitely hilarious, it was kind of humiliating at the same time. While the fight at the time seemed to be about Jessica's former boyfriend and now husband, Eric Johnson, Ken would go MIA for months until he finally decided to lose his cool about Jessica's poor attitude and say that he was kind of sick of her dumping her friends when she was with a guy. Ken would also go on to say that she doesn't care about the world, only herself, and all she talks about is men, love, and getting intimate with them. Ken would even go on to question her relationship with Eric, as she said that the rest of Jessica's friends were all unsure about his true intentions, and it seemed like he didn't have his own life. And while he pretty much hinted Jessica's new boyfriend was a gold digger who dropped out of business school just to live in her mansion, while Jessica's team would say Ken was only saying these things to promote his new hairline, so it was just one way of him making a big PR move. Ken would even clap back by saying Jessica wasn't his only client or friend. Number 3, Jon Gosselin. Jon Gosselin and Michael Lohan became best friends pretty fast back in July of 2009. However, their friendship was pretty much doomed after Michael thought it was ideal to date Michael's ex, who happens to be reporter Kate Major. While Jon and Kate got divorced in 2018 after 4 years of marriage, he would be left feeling humiliated after Michael decided to get with Kate just a few months later after they became friends. While Jon and Kate first rose to fame in their TLC reality TV show Jon and Kate +8, later Michael would leak private phone calls with Jon to the public, and it would prove that Michael was violating the ultimate bro code. 1 year later, Michael would then accuse Jon of cheating him out of money by saying, "Jon knows what the deal was. I kept him out of harm's way and he stabbed me in the back." When you open the door to someone and give them a safe haven and a place to go, and they turn around and bite the hand that feeds, or stabs you in the back, that doesn't sit well with me. I mean, finding out your friend is with your ex is pretty humiliating, but the fact Michael has a history of leaking private phone calls to the press means you might just want to be careful when you talk to him. Number 2, we have Winona Ryder. In the 90s, Winona Ryder and Gwyneth were the bestest of friends, as they were frequently photographed together when they were dating good friends Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. However, by 1998, their friendship would go up in smoke when Winona would be left feeling humiliated. So the story goes goes that when Gwyneth stumbled upon a script for Shakespeare's in Love in Winona's home, the actress would then ask to audition for the lead role, and she would actually end up getting it and winning an Oscar for her performance. However, the story has never been confirmed by the pair, and Gwyneth continues to deny ever stealing the role from Winona. In 2009, the Goop founder wrote in a blog back in the day that she had a frenemy who, as it turned out, was pretty hell-bent on taking her down. At the time, there was speculation that this frenemy was Winona. Gwyneth went on to say, "I restrained myself from fighting back. I tried to take the high road, but one day I heard something unfortunate and humiliating had happened to this person." While many people speculated she was referencing Winona's shoplifting conviction in 2002 that made national headlines, Gwyneth went on to say that her reaction to it caused her to have a deep relief and she was happy about it. And coming in number 1 today, we have Chris Howard. Everyone knows that your husband is your best friend. However, Gabrielle Union embarrassed her ex-husband to a T the other day when she described their dysfunctional marriage. During a podcast on Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard, the actress and author talked about her marriage to former professional football player Chris Howard, who she divorced in 2006 after 5 years of marriage. Gabby would say, "In my first marriage, neither of us felt like the marriage should get in the way of our dating. A part of it was like keeping up with activities like, oh, that's what you're doing? You're going to feel this one. And I just felt entitled to it as well." Later, the actress would talk about how she wished she felt more guilt when it came to her behavior during her first marriage, but because she was paying all the bills, she didn't feel anything. So not only did she admit to infidelity, but she also claimed that she was the real man of the house, and that's definitely gotta be embarrassing to hear.
Starting off at number 10, we have Kim's pregnancy secret. One of the worst and most shocking things that Kanye has done to Kim was revealing that Kim almost decided to abort North before she was born. At a campaign rally, Kanye broke down in tears talking about it, saying to a crowd of people, quote, "She had the pill in her hand. My girlfriend called me screaming, crying. I'm a rapper, and she said I'm pregnant. She was crying." With Kanye then adding, quote, "I almost killed my daughter." And of course, this was an extremely private secret that Kim never wanted out, especially when North gets older and will learn that her father said those things. After the outburst, sources told the press that Kim was obviously not happy, with sources telling The Sun, quote, "Kanye's friends and family are concerned about him. They have seen this erratic behavior before and ultimately fear a breakdown. They can only describe Kanye's current situation as a ticking time bomb." And at number 9, Kanye cheating rumors. After the news broke that Kanye and Kim were most likely getting a divorce, some influencers came out of the woodwork claiming that Kanye was cheating on Kim for years with men. One TikToker, Ava Louise, claimed that she knew that Kanye had cheated with a male beauty guru, which was later rumored to be Jeffree Star, of all people, a competitor and friend of Kim's, which obviously mortified the family. That rumor was denied by Jeffree in a YouTube video that he uploaded, but it didn't stop people from continuing to speculate. Then another male beauty guru, Cole Kerrigan, came out on his TikTok claiming that he was the one that hooked up with Kanye, saying that after meeting him at a party, Kanye's bodyguard got into contact with Cole and arranged for them to hook up at a hotel. Cole and Ava are now being sued, but Cole doesn't seem to be backing down on his claims, so more could potentially come out from him that exposes Kanye further. Also, make sure to subscribe if you want to see that. And at number 8, comments on slavery. Obviously, Kanye has made tons of controversial comments over the years, but none were as bad as when he spoke about slavery. In an interview he did with TMZ at the time he was having many public outbursts, he sparked tons of criticism when he claimed that slavery was a choice, even getting backlash from one of the people in TMZ's office. Kanye later revealed on his album that Kim was so mad about his comments that she broke down in tears. On the song Wouldn't Leave, he rapped, quote, "My wife callin', scream and say we about to lose it all. Had to calm her down cause she couldn't breathe. Told her she could leave me now but she wouldn't leave." And Kim confirmed all that on ET, where she said, quote, "Did I cry about it? Did I fight about it? Yeah." She said that's not stuff we put on social media. And at number 7, trashing Kim's style. If you guys watch Keeping Up, then you know there's one episode back when Kim and Kanye started dating where Kanye completely revamped Kim's closet. And by revamped, I mean told her style was terrible and literally threw out most of her clothes. And at that time, it didn't seem like Kim minded too much and she seemed to shrug it off. She even credits Kanye for reinventing her look and making her more notable in the fashion world. But since Kim is so obsessed with her style and image as a whole, I'm sure getting told that her fashion sense was awful on her own TV show, just stung a little bit. In one interview on the topic, Kim said, quote, "I always thought thought I had really good style until I met my husband, and he told me I had the worst style. I probably had 250 pairs of shoes, and when we were done cleaning it out, I had 2 pairs left and I cried. And since then, Kanye has been styling Kim, and I'm sure the comments about her fashion that haven't made it to TV are even worse. And at number 6, jealousy. Kanye is definitely the jealous type, as we've seen on multiple occasions. But apparently Kanye is so jealous, it also affects Kim's private life with her male friends and colleagues. And Kanye is very controlling over which men she can spend time with, even publicly talking trash about his wife or posting risque pictures in the past. A source actually spoke about Kanye getting jealous in real life, telling a story and saying, quote, Kanye came out of a meeting at some fashion office on Wooster Street and found this really tall, hunky white guy talking to Kim. Kanye walked right up to Kim and said, quote, who's this guy? You like this guy? Then when the man told Kanye that he was married with kids and told Kanye he had nothing to worry about, Kanye clapped back, quote, oh, but if you weren't married with twins, I'd have something to worry about. And obviously, that's just really embarrassing for Kim. And at number 5, can't keep promises. The lead up to Kim and Kanye showing off their insane mansion was spoiled when Kanye decided to post some pictures of the house prematurely without Kim's approval. And if you've seen the house, you know it's a little more than odd, especially with no context around it. So after Kanye tweeted out some pictures of the house, he started to get roasted online, with people joking about how empty the house was and how it looked like a glorified jail or something. In response to all the negative criticism, Kim replied back to the tweet on social media, saying, quote, babe, we had a rule not to show our home on social media. And I'm sure this isn't the first time Kanye spoiled a surprise and embarrassed the couple as a result. And at number 4, Kylie's Puma deal. Back when Yeezy was first coming up as a shoe brand, Kanye put Kylie in his promotional campaign. But things got a little complicated when Kylie was asked to collaborate with Puma on her own shoe line, not only hurting the promotional materials for Yeezy, but also helping one of Kanye's biggest competitors. In an episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Kim said, quote, Kanye had Kylie walk in his first 2 Adidas shows. He really believed in her as part of his brand. I feel like this was a conflict of interest. Kylie ended up getting a 7-figure deal with Puma, but lost the respect of Kanye along the way. Before the deal was finished, Kanye tweeted out, quote, 1000% there will never be a Kylie Puma anything. That's on my family. 1000% Kylie is on Yeezy team. Then adding in another tweet, quote, Puma, I've got to give you your measly $1 million back. Never try to divide the family. But the situation got even more embarrassing when Kylie ended up taking that Puma deal. And although Kanye being upset with her was completely justified, he definitely shouldn't have tweeted about it. It was really embarrassing for everyone involved. Number 3, literally all his tweets. It seems that Kanye's time on Twitter happens in waves. He usually isn't tweeting much, but then other times he's tweeting up a storm. And it seems that when he is tweeting, it's usually things that expose Kim or the family as a whole. And it's hard to pick out just some of his worst tweets exposing the family, but in one he called Kris Jenner Kris Jong-un. He also tweeted about Kim and the family trying to lock him up after he was ranting on Twitter. And he also tweeted about wanting a divorce from Kim and listing all the reasons why. Things got so bad that Kim had to address it all on her Instagram. Kim posted a long Instagram story message about how Kanye has bipolar disorder and she's powerless to help him as he is an adult. And at number 2, Trump's support. Kanye shocked the world when he came out in support of Trump on Saturday Night Live, wearing a MAGA hat and giving a long rant on why he feels that way. After the outburst, a source told People, quote, having all this backlash against Kanye is embarrassing for her and her family, but she will never say that. She supports Kanye through and through and truly does think her husband is entitled to his own opinion. But there was most likely some tension as Kim publicly supported Hillary Clinton in the election. Kim ended up addressing the backlash against her husband in a tweet saying, quote, most people, including myself, have very different feelings and opinions about this, but this is his opinion. I believe in people being able to have their own opinions, even if really different from mine. And finally, at number 1, Meek Mill cheating. In one of many of Kanye's outbursts, he told the world that he wanted to divorce Kim, and his reasoning was that she was cheating on him with Meek Mill. The tweet read, quote, I've been trying to get divorced since Kim met with Meek Mill at the Waldorf for prison reform, putting prison reform in quotes to signify that it was a BS excuse for them to meet up, with Kanye even adding in another tweet that Meek was respectful and Kim was the one that was out of line. But thankfully, a random person who was at the hotel that day posted a picture they took of Kim and Meek together, showing that Meek and Kim were outside publicly having lunch, and they were also joined by philanthropist Clara Wu, clearly proving that no cheating was going down.
Number 10, Jake Gyllenhaal's bad acting. During a 2016 appearance on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, the actor revealed that he originally tried out for Lord of the Rings. Apparently, it all started when he got a conference call with around 14 agents, who were all excited about the prospect of having him play Frodo. Jake then explained that they called him up and said that said Peter Jackson was going to start work on the trilogy and they wanted him to audition to play the Hobbit. But the actual audition was a nightmare. It seemed like everything was going well until Jake was instructed to only follow lots of stage directions but say no lines. Apparently he was asked to walk up to a box, open it, and take out the ring, and he became confused by what the director wanted and he just took out the ring in a really casual way. Not at all like someone who just discovered the source of ultimate power in Middle-earth. To make matters so much worse, he says that his agents were so excited to get him the audition, they forgot to tell him that he needed to put on an English accent for the part. And obviously, Jackson did not love how relaxed he was about finding the ring. He said, literally, Peter Jackson was like facepalm. He said, "You are the worst actor I have ever seen. Did anyone tell you you're supposed to have an accent?" The role ultimately went to Elijah Wood, but it sounds like Jake might have aced the audition if only he'd been given a chance to properly prepare. In this case, it seems like it was more his agent's fault, if anything. Number 9, Taylor Swift's brown teeth. A decade after its premiere, the singer remembered auditioning for the 2012 movie adaptation of Les Miserables. She went on the Graham Norton show in October and told the humiliating story of how she auditioned. Taylor said, "Basically, I was up for 2 roles. I had the look of Cosette and the vocal range of Eponine, so it was established that I was there for a good time but not a long time. I wasn't going to get the role." She auditioned alongside actor Eddie Redmayne, which quickly turned into a nightmare experience. She said, "What they asked if I would like to go to London to do a screen test with Eddie, who is one of my favorite actors, and I thought, this isn't an experience I'm going to get again in my life. So I said yes." However, once she got to the set, the crew put her in a full 19th century street urchin costume before she even had the chance to meet him. She said, "So I get there and they're like, okay, so we really want to make you look like Eponine." So they were like, "We're actually gonna paint your teeth brown for this." And I'm like, "So you're gonna do that after I meet Eddie Redmayne, right?" She said, "That's not something you do before I get to meet people and then you do brown teeth, right?" And they're like, "Oh no, everybody's gonna meet you with the brown teeth." Taylor added that when she eventually met him, she didn't open her mouth to speak, which makes a lot of sense when you consider what color her teeth must have been the whole time. Number 8, Rob Lowe's disaster kiss. The 80s heartthrob was one of the most popular and good-looking movie stars of his time, which is an image he certainly managed to keep in the following decades. While many fans may have wanted to kiss Rob Lowe, in his 2014 memoir Love Life, the actor revealed that the singer-songwriter Jewel was not among them. He mentioned their kissing scene in the short-lived TV series The Lion's Den, which was apparently so bad that Jewel later tried to get it cut. Lowe said that they had no chemistry and the kiss was apparently less 50 Shades of Grey and more Grey Gardens. He said, "I was beginning to take it personally. I checked my teeth, I checked my breath, it seemed okay to me, but I popped an Altoid to be safe. I sort of moved my head side to side to make it look real, like there was even a dollop of energy or passion. Afterward, Jewel looked at me and wiped the back of her hand across her lips, like an American Sign Language version of yuck." Lowe also brought up the incident during an appearance on the Ellen DeGeneres show in 2013 and said, "It's a parade of indignities, and the culminating blow for me was having the actress who didn't want to kiss me in the love scene, and that person would be Jewel." Now that must have been a pretty awkward moment for both of them, but interestingly enough, they've actually maintained some sort of friendly relationship over the years, so it couldn't have been that bad. Number 7, how Jennifer Coolidge got fired. The actress has been open about her struggles when it comes to making it in Hollywood. She finally got her break with a guest role on Seinfeld at the age of 32, and she went on to become the beloved comedic actor that she is today. And she's even won an Emmy, but Jennifer definitely didn't get there without a few bumps along the way. When she went on the Rachel Ray show, she was asked if she's ever been fired, and she recalled one particularly traumatizing incident where she was dropped from the show on MTV. Although she couldn't remember the exact name, she said, "The producer fired me through the bathroom door. No, I'm not kidding. He came into the ladies' room and fired me through the stall door." And I was like, okay, well, I'll be out soon. But apparently that wasn't even the end of the awkwardness, because a different producer then came up to her that was unaware of what had just happened. They said, "Jennifer, you can just go out that door. We're going to escort you out." Quote, "So I'm walking along down the hallway and the other producer didn't know I'd just been fired. And he's coming over the other way and he goes, 'Jennifer, you need to get in your outfit. We're going on in like 2 minutes.' And I go, 'No, I don't think we can because I just got fired.' And he goes, 'Okay, well, take care.'" Jennifer's story was not only humiliating, but it actually highlights how brutal the entertainment industry can really be. Number 6, Chris Evans's awkward audition. The Marvel star's worst audition experience came as a result of him feeling starstruck by Ben Affleck. He told Backstage in 2011, "I walked in and I'm walking down the halls looking for this room. And as I passed the room, I heard, 'There he is.' In my head, I was like, 'That's Ben.' I turned around and it was. And for some reason, I instantly get nervous. I went in and shook his hand. And the first thing I said was, 'Hey, how you doing? Am I gonna be okay where I parked?' And he said, 'Where'd you park?' And I said, 'At one of the meters.' And he said, 'Did you put money in it?' And I said, 'Yeah.' And he said, 'I think you'll be all right.' It was that awkward introduction that led Chris to struggle the entire time that he auditioned, all for the 2007 movie Gone Baby Gone, which was directed by Ben Affleck himself. He said, 'From that moment, I just wanted to get the F out of the room. I just wanted to be anywhere but there. I sat down with my heart beating out of my chest. I was so mortified that I started this meeting off that way. I started giving him one-word answers.' Chris went on to explain the actual audition and said, 'They put me in a rocking chair, so I was just rocking and twisting, just nervous.' At this point, he was asked several questions to break the ice, but all he could say was good. In the end, he just said, 'I wanted to get out of there. It was horrible, a complete disaster.' So obviously I did not get that job. Number 5, Drake's necklace. The rapper recently revealed his new piece of bling that is inspired by all the fiancés he's never had. On December the 12th, jewelry designer Alex Moss shared an Instagram reel showing off the dazzling diamond necklace, which featured sparklers from dozens of engagement rings to represent the times that Drake almost proposed. Yes, if that sounds crazy, it's actually true. The caption read, "New piece titled Previous Engagements, for all the times he thought about it but never did it." Apparently, Drake's necklace has 42 stones and a whopping 351.38 carats in diamonds. The entire project took 14 months to complete top to bottom and was built by hand in New York City. And yes, you heard that right, the necklace was supposed to be a tribute to all the women that Drake contemplated asking to marry him but never did. Some fans feel that this is something he probably shouldn't be shouting from the rooftops, although what's interesting is its similarities to his music video Falling Back on his 7th studio album called Honestly Nevermind. The 9-minute video seemed to break the internet when it dropped because it showed Drake marrying 23 brides in an over-top wedding that also featured a rabbi and his mom Sandy Graham. Number 4, MGK wears Megan Fox's blood. The rapper made fans cringe back in February when he admitted that his fiancée gifted him a drop of her blood to wear around his neck. He went on the Ellen DeGeneres show and said, "Well, she was actually going out of town to film a movie. This was really new in our relationship. I didn't have a passport either. So she was going out to Bulgaria, so I was kind of freaking out, like, you're gonna leave me and I can't even come and see you. Some people give like a handkerchief to their partner or whatever. She gave me her DNA. So apparently, because they didn't want to stress about spending time apart, she gave him a bit of her blood to carry around with him. Not only that, but in an interview earlier this year with Glamour, Megan confirmed that the two of them engaged in something she calls blood play. She said, "So I guess to drink each other's blood might mislead people, or people are imagining us with goblets and we're like Game of Thrones, drinking each other's blood. It's just a few drops, but yes, we do consume each other's blood on occasion, for ritual purposes only." She claimed that she will gladly shed a few drops of blood for them to drink it, but apparently MGK is more chaotic and is willing to just cut his chest open with broken glass. I mean, sure, every couple has their kinks, but what is it with these two and blood? Number 3, Matt LeBlanc's drunk story. After years of working in the entertainment industry, it's virtually impossible for actors not to have a worst audition story, but obviously some of them are more embarrassing than others. If you want to hear one of the worst ones, just ask Matt LeBlanc. During the Friends reunion last year, he said, "I remember I had gone in a bunch of times and I think it was on the final callback. I had gone with a friend of mine to run lines." And he said, "So the show was about friends and being friends? Just a group of friends?" And I said, "Yeah, kinda." And he was like, "Well, we should go out drinking." Then after a night of many drinks and bad decisions, Matt said that he woke up in the middle of the night at his friend's apartment and had to go to the bathroom. He said, "I got up too fast and I can't believe I'm telling you this, but I kind of blacked out as you do. Fell face first into the toilet, hit my nose on the bottom of the toilet seat, and a huge chunk of meat came off my nose. And I'm looking in the mirror, it's bleeding, and I'm like, oh my god, I have to go in for the big callback. And there's a big ugly scab on my nose." But even though that sounds like every actor's worst nightmare, just as luck would have it, the creator of the show, Martha Corey, Kaufman found the story so true to Joey's character that it scored him the role. Number 2, Alison Brie wet her pants. The star of the hit AMC show Mad Men admitted to peeing her pants on set during a stressful incident involving a wardrobe malfunction. Alison went on Justin Long's podcast Life is Short and explained how it all went down. She said, "We wore girdles. It's basically like biker shorts that go all the way up to our ribs, and it's like time period appropriate. I didn't know for the first season of Mad Men that you weren't really supposed to wear underwear underneath them because they are underwear." She then recalled one troubling day on set where she had to rush to the bathroom. This became an issue because the show was known for its extremely accurate period costumes of the 1960s, and so the girdle only had a small hole in the crotch area for convenience because those outfits were very difficult to take all the way off. Unfortunately, Alison accidentally blocked that hole with her modern underwear. She said, "I tried to pull the hole open, but I didn't pull my underwear to the side, so I'm peeing and I'm not hearing it hit the bowl, and then I just feel warm." So what did she do? Well, she pretty much just dealt with it on her own, dabbed it with a bunch of toilet paper and got back to filming. She later explained that Mad Men was her first real job, so she didn't ever want to be considered the problem person, and that everyone on set was waiting for her, so she didn't want to lose her job. And coming in at number 1, Tom Hanks's on-set farting. While working on the 2006 film The Da Vinci Code, Paul Bettany, who played the albino monk Silas, claimed that he punched Tom Hanks in the stomach so hard that he ended up farting. He told Stephen Colbert on The Late Show that the fart came during the first scene that he ever shared with Hanks on screen, and said that he was understandably nervous. Bettany said, "I had to grab him and I had to punch him in the stomach, and it's very quiet on set. It's always more quiet when there's a stunt going on because you're worried somebody's gonna get hurt, so everybody's listening. And I punched him in the stomach and he farted really loudly, but really loudly. I didn't know what the form was. What do you do when the biggest movie star in the world farts? I kind of looked at him and he went, 'What is wrong with you? You just made me fart.'" Bettany said that he never reached those heights again in his career. He also spoke about the moment in an Esquire interview, saying, "I was like, holy crap, what am I gonna do? It's Tom Hanks. He's the biggest star in the world and I've just made him fart." What's really hilarious about the story is the way that Tom Hanks told it on the Graham Norton show, when he said, "Paul came rushing in and I met him, and what had to happen was he was supposed to knock me down against a desk and then I landed on the ground. When I hit the floor, I farted." The actor said that this was the reason why he doesn't do a lot of action scenes. Although the sound did not make it into the film, the incident makes for a good story even if it was slightly embarrassing.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have Notting Hill. During Amber Heard's testimony, she spoke about her and Johnny's first time meeting and basically how they fell in love. So during this, she spoke about a time where Johnny was sober, he wasn't drinking alcohol, and instead he was drinking tea. Lots of tea. If you have been following the trial, her emphasis on how much tea he was drinking might have struck you as a little odd. I mean, I was watching it live and I was a little confused as to why she spoke about it so many times and seemed to care about it so much. Many people on the internet, however, are starting to believe that it may be a reference to Notting Hill. It's similar to a line that Julia Roberts is seen saying to Hugh Grant, and people out there think that the way Amber said it in her testimony was also a mimicked version of how Julia Roberts said it. It may seem like a small thing, but in the grand scheme of all of the quotes that we're going to talk about on this list today, it certainly becomes a little more interesting. In our number 9 spot today, we have Mildred Pierce. During Amber's testimony, she begins talking about what she claims is the first time Johnny hit her. While speaking about this, she claims that after this, Johnny said that he would, quote, "rather cut off his hand," end quote, than lay another hand upon her. Many people believe that this is a line that was stolen right from the 1945 film Mildred Pierce. In this film, there's a scene where Mildred sort of suddenly lashes out and she ends up slapping Veda across the face. As Veda stands there looking surprised at what just happened, Mildred apologizes for her actions, saying, quote, "I'm so sorry I did that. I've had rather cut off my hand." The lines definitely are similar, whether or not they were directly stolen from these pieces of work. Maybe they're stolen, maybe it's a coincidence, or maybe it just shows how rehearsed the testimony is. In our number 8 spot today, we have the talented Mr. Ripley. This quote is definitely one of the most popular ones floating around the internet today, and it is said to be in reference to Amber Heard's opening statements. People are claiming that Amber was directly quoting the talented Mr. Ripley, which featured a character who would shower people with gifts and then sort of disappear, sort of similar to what Amber testified about her relationship with Johnny. While it's floating around the internet that she directly quoted the movie word for word, I could not find a timestamp where she took the quote directly. Instead, however, I could find things that would sort of suggest a similar story to what was seen in the movie.
The quote people are referencing says, quote, "The thing with blank," Amber says Johnny, "it's like the sun shines on you and it's glorious, and then he forgets you and it's very, very cold. When you have his attention, you feel like you're the only person in the world. That's why everybody loves him so much." Amber didn't say these words exactly as far as I could find, but she does say something similar. She talks about a sort of warm glow that was felt at the beginning of their relationship, and that he showered her with gifts and made her feel like the most beautiful woman in the world, and they would be in this bubble for 4 or 5 days at a time, but then he would suddenly just disappear. In our number 7 spot today, we have "I Am a Killer." During Amber's testimony, she spoke about a time when she and Johnny were around another woman, and they were all under the influence of different substances at the time. Amber claimed that at one point this other woman leaned her head on Amber's shoulder, and she claims that this set Johnny off. She went on to allege that Johnny then at some point grabbed this woman's wrist and twisted it and pulled it towards him. It is then that Amber claims he said, quote, "Do you know how many pounds of pressure it takes to break a human wrist?" She went on to say, quote, "He held her and she looked frozen. She's crying." Many people online have pointed out that this line, which she claimed he said, is actually something that was said by someone who appeared in the Netflix show I Am a Killer. In the Netflix show, the woman was serving a life sentence for taking the life of her former partner who had broken her hands in this exact same way. The episode in question was called In Her Hands. In our number 6 spot today, we have Shrek 2. Okay, this one is certainly probably the silliest on this list, and definitely a little on the satire side, but the internet will always be undefeated in seeing something and running with it. This is a moment in the trial that someone on TikTok was quick to point out was kind of similar to a moment in Shrek 2 of all of the movies that exist. In the Shrek clip, Prince Charming is looking around going, "Whoa, what happened here?" In this TikTok clip, it quickly cuts to Amber, who says the exact same thing almost in the exact same way. I would definitely like to assume that she did not steal a line from Shrek 2 for her testimony, but at this point, really anything is possible. In our number 5 spot today, we have White Chicks. During Amber Heard's first day of testimony, she told quite a frightening story that she alleges is a real and true thing that Johnny did. She explained that there was a point where she had called Depp's sister, who is said to have showed up later to help remove Depp from the home, but as they were driving in the car, she told a terrible tale of what she says happens. She said, quote, "He has the window down. At some point he starts howling out the window and he grabbed Boo, his dog, a slightly chunkier teacup Yorkie. He grabs Boo and holds Boo out the window of the moving car. He's howling like an animal while holding the dog out of the window." She does go on to explain how everyone reacted in this situation, but people on the internet were quick to point out a hypocritical moment. Not only did people think that this story was taken straight out of the movie White Chicks, in which there is quite a similar scene as to what she just described, but there is also an Instagram photo that has since been circulating the internet of a similar scenario that Amber described, but in this scenario, it is very clearly Amber who is holding the dog out of the car window. This has all made people skeptical of this story she told and unsure of the truth behind it. In our number 4 spot today, we have True Detective. This is a moment that is similar to the I Am a Killer one we already talked about, and it's in reference to the part of Amber's testimony where she was speaking to an aggressive moment that happened on a flight between Amber, Johnny, and the flight attendant who was on the same flight at the time. Amber claimed that Johnny grabbed this flight attendant's wrist, slammed it down, and said something similar to how a few pounds of pressure could break it. One Twitter user was quick to point out the similarities between this testimony and a scene from True Detective Season 1. People seem to believe that this was taken from the show, considering the similarity of this story to the other one we already talked about, as well as the similarity to the show. It is compelling that people are pointing out that perhaps either of these women might have spoken out or testified if these stories were true, but of course that doesn't mean the story isn't true, it's just an interesting question we have to ask. In our number 3 spot today, we have the article. This is something that wasn't stolen from a movie or a piece of literature, but it is something that people have been pointing out because it seems as though it is untruthful, or at the very least in direct contrast to something she had mentioned prior to their divorce. Amber claimed during her testimony that prior to her relationship with Johnny, she wasn't a fan of his. She said she wasn't a fan of his art, but when fans found an article from years ago, they began to question just how true that really was. In the article, it is said that Amber, as a teenager, had photos of Johnny all over her room. A friend of hers told the Inquirer that Johnny was basically Amber's first love, that when she was a teenager, she had already decided to become an actor, and that she had photos of him all over her room. They finished by saying, quote, "So it's no surprise they fell in love while working together. Amber can usually get whatever she sets her mind to." In our number 2 spot today, we have Alpha Dog. This one is more of a theory in relation to the trial rather than a direct ripoff, but it certainly is interesting. So we have all heard the story of the poo on the bed at this point. If you haven't, basically it's just a story that suggests that Amber had left feces in the bed that she and Depp had shared together after a night of arguing. It is said that she tried to blame the mess on the pair's dogs, but many people have suggested that this was just a lie to cover the bizarre action. This theory in question is that this entire move was one that was stolen from the movie Alpha Dog. In the movie, which she actually was in, although it was a short appearance, one of the characters, who is under the influence of certain substances, decides to defecate on his enemy's rug as revenge. It certainly is a cinematic move, that's for sure. Whether this is true or not has yet to be proven, but it certainly is a compelling theory. In our number 1 spot today, we have Maid. People on Twitter pointed out a similarity in Amber's testimony to a Netflix series called Maid. People specifically pointed out the part where she was talking about how Johnny allegedly threw a glass in her direction, then punched a wall, then punched the wall right next to her. According to people who have seen the Netflix show, which is about a woman who is fleeing a very harmful relationship in order to provide a better life for her children, it is said that this scene is actually in the show. It is entirely possible that real life just happened to align with the show, but with everything else on this list, people certainly are more suspicious than they normally would be. Many people said that even during her explanation of this story, they vividly thought of this Netflix show.
Coming at number 10, the tissue. In a seemingly innocuous moment during the defamation trial of Johnny Depp, Amber appeared to wipe her nose with a tissue. However, fans around the world swear that she is not blowing her nose into the tissue, but rather sniffing something tucked inside instead. As such, wild assumptions and theories began running amok on social media, and the video quickly went viral. In a tweet, one user shared the video clip and captioned it with, "Yo, I've done some ish in my day, but I've never had the stones to do in a courtroom." However, as many people have pointed out already, it's not probable that she was doing this. Security would be patting down every single person going to that courtroom, and on top of that, there are very harsh penalties for consuming or carrying illegal substances in a courthouse. I really doubt Amber's team would be okay trying to help her conceal that. What's a more plausible answer though is that she was sniffing a kind of Vicks vapor rub to help her eyes tear up more during her testimony. This would then in turn make it look like she was crying and therefore help convince the jury that she means what she says. But before we jump into our next point, make sure you tap that like button to show some love to the channel. In at number 9, the flinch. After Amber Heard finished with her testimony the other day, there was a bizarre moment when everyone was leaving the courtroom. Amber appeared to actually flinch or recoil as she came somewhat close to Johnny Depp while leaving, even though there were a ton of people standing in between them. In fact, he wasn't very close at all, but because he walked somewhat in her direction, she flinched like a soccer player trying to draw a penalty. It was A1 acting, if you ask me. Perfectly timed given the weight of her harrowing testimony. The actress told the Virginia courthouse that her ex-husband had S8'd her with a liquor bottle and then threatened to end her life in March of 2015 while they were in Australia. As they were leaving, Depp, who as you know is partially blind in one eye, stood up and simply moved in the same direction as the Aquaman star, which is when Heard seemed to physically shudder and look terrified, even taking a step back as courtroom officials immediately turned towards Depp and put their hands up as if to warn him to stay back. Johnny Depp then turned away and appeared to shrug and smile as if he had no idea why they were all in a huff. In at number 8, objection. Some of the most popular words during the Amber Heard vs. Johnny Depp trial have been objection or hearsay, and in a bizarre moment all caught on camera, Amber Heard's lawyer completely misses the mark. As he was cross-examining Ben King, Heard's attorney Benjamin Rottenborn got a little too flustered. At first his question was objected to, and then the judge sustained the objection. He then tried to ask the question again, but when Mr. King started to answer, he randomly says, objection, hearsay, to his own question. And although it's not Amber Heard doing something weird, it still has to be mentioned on this list. The fact that it was her own attorneys doing this really highlighted how unprepared they were for this trial, at least mentally. In at number 7, do you know the Muffin Man? In another strange case of cross-examination gone wrong, one of Amber Heard's lawyers, Elaine Bredhoff, kept questioning psychologist Dr. Shannon Curry in the most bizarre way. She was absolutely fixated on the muffins that Dr. Curry says that she brought for Miss Heard. There was a lot of grasping for straws during this questioning. She attempted to involve Dr. Curry's husband in all this to prove that she had leaked sensitive information to him. She tried to suggest that Dr. Curry had drinks and dinner with Mr. Depp to prove that there was some sort of bias there, and then she kept focusing on these muffins that she gave to Miss Heard. Dr. Curry explained that she frequently brings muffins into her office. On the day that Amber Heard came in, her husband was aware that she was meeting with a celebrity, and so she asked him to pick up the muffins for her. He brought them back to their home, and then Dr. Curry brought them into the office like she always does. She then clarified that she said to Miss Heard that her husband had purchased the muffins for today, but didn't do so as some sort of special present for Amber, like her attorney was attempting to suggest. Needless to say, her constant questions about the muffins led to countless memes involving the gingerbread man from Shrek. Coming number 6, similar styles. Clinical psychologist Dr. Shannon Curry also gave a possible explanation as to why Amber Heard chose to dress just like her ex-husband during their trial, and it's most likely due to her suffering from borderline personality disorder, or BPD for short. Dr. Curry was also called to the stand and explained that people with BPD will often have identity issues which typically result in people dressing like the people they want to be around. Dr. Curry explained to the jury, they take on the personality of the people they want to be around, the way they dress, interests, the way they talk. On the first day of the trial, for example, Depp was seen wearing a Gucci tie with a bumblebee on it, and then just 2 days later, Amber was spotted wearing a very similar tie which also had a bee on it. Social media users also pointed out that Depp donned a gray suit for the first day of the trial, and then Amber could be also seen wearing a pants and shirt combo of the same color to the courthouse on April 12th. Not convinced? Well, on April 18th, Depp showed up to court with his long hair pulled back into a ponytail, and then the following day, Amber had her hair done in a very similar way. In another example, Depp wore glasses during many days of the trial, and Amber Heard was also seen using a similar pair. Coming number 5, stolen movie lines. Okay, Twitter is convinced that Amber Heard had quoted multiple movies during her testimony. In a Twitter thread posted on May 5th, 2022, the Twitter user claimed that Heard had stolen from film, television, and books for her defense. A Twitter user posted these screenshots of the comparison and said, if you were watching Amber Heard and felt like some of those lines felt strangely familiar, they are. She's stealing from film and TV and books. Here's a thread of what I have seen so far. And so far, the tweet has been retweeted more than 4,000 times and liked by over 14,000 people. Among the evidence she presented, the Twitter user claimed that the quote from the actress of Drinks Lots of Tea was stolen by Julia Roberts' character in Notting Hill. Another part of her testimony, she said he'd rather cut off his hand, which she claimed was directly lifted from the drama series Mildred Pierce. Perhaps the one that took off the most though in all of this was the screenshot within the thread where the user claimed that Amber's opening monologue in her testimony is the plot of The Talented Mr. Ripley. In that post, the user claims, her entire beginning monologue is literally the plot of The Talented Mr. Ripley, actual quotes from the movie, and featured a character who showered gifts then mysteriously disappeared. The thing with Johnny, it's like the sun shines on you and it's glorious, and then he forgets you and it's very, very cold. When you have his attention, you feel like you're the only person in the world. That's why everybody loves him so much. Coming number 4, the bottle. In this brief footage that was captured and plastered all over TikTok, Amber Heard can be seen tightening a bottle and then placing it awkwardly into her pocket right as a courtroom official almost catches her. This video sparked mass speculation that she was trying to sneak booze into the courtroom. One user who tweeted the video captioned it with, is Amber Heard drinking alcohol in the courtroom and hiding it from the sheriff? Who takes a cap off and puts it back in their pocket so fast? The speculation about her drinking in court came after authorities reportedly banned the use of bottled drinks inside of the courtroom. Law and Crime host Jesse Weber made the announcement and said, we were just informed we will no longer be allowed to bring bottled drinks in court. The last time we were given this instruction was when Johnny Depp first took the stand. Coming number 3, crocodile tears. Depp's fans have been flooding social media accusing her of being a bad actress and fake crying, following her testimony at their blockbuster defamation trial. She spent 2 days detailing Depp's alleged attacks, saying her former spouse slapped her across the face and conducted a cavity search to find illegal substances that he believed she was hiding from him. However, Depp's supporters have slammed the actress on Twitter and TikTok, claiming that she was faking her testimony because she failed to produce a single tear. Andy Signor even tweeted, oh my god, I'm dying. Amber Heard is the worst actor ever. This fake incoherent performance is sickening. All over the place. Too many details, fake sighs, forced tears, and looks to the jury. This is an embarrassment to survivors everywhere. With poet Joseph Massey adding, I watched a little of the Amber Heard testimony today. How does someone cry without tears? Is it a medical condition? Whenever I cry or see someone else crying, it's a real mess that requires multiple tissues if not a small mop. Coming number 2, caught smirking. Amber Heard has failed to present any actual evidence that proves Johnny was attacking her, but the actor has presented plenty of evidence that she was horrible to him. In a set of tapes recorded by Johnny, Depp is asking Amber Heard about a time in which she hurt him with a door and proceeded to punch him straight in the face. She apologized for hitting him with the door, but she is on record saying that she meant to actually clock him in the face. There's a video of her deposition in which she is listening to the tape. In the recorded exchange, you can see a confused Johnny while trying to ask Amber what she was apologizing for. Initially, she says she is sorry for punching him, but then she clarifies that she's only sorry about the door. She then goes on to say that she meant to punch him in the face after Johnny described the entire scenario of how things happened. Throughout the whole time that she was listening, there was a clear grin on her face as if she was almost enjoying enjoying it when she recalled that moment. And last but certainly not least, on our number one spot, Amber's admission of guilt. In April of last year, Johnny Depp had filed a defamation lawsuit against Amber Heard for $50 million after she wrote an opinion piece for the Washington Post about the duress that she was suffering from just being with him. As a result, Depp was fired from his role as Captain Jack Sparrow in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, and his reputation in Hollywood was severely tarnished. However, Depp's lawyers received a bombshell of an audio confession where Heard admits to hitting Johnny. In the audio, she says, "I'm sorry that I didn't hit you across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you. Babe, you're not punched." Later adding, "I don't know what the motion of my actual hand was, but you're fine. I did not hurt you, I did not punch you, I was hitting you." After Amber Heard finished with her testimony the other day, there was a bizarre moment when everyone was leaving the courtroom. Amber appeared to actually flinch or recoil as she came somewhat close to Johnny Depp when leaving, even though there were a ton of people standing in between them. Perfectly timed given the weight of her harrowing testimony. The actress told the Virginia courthouse that her ex-husband had S8'd her with a liquor bottle, and then he threatened to end her life in March of 2015 while they were in Australia. As they were leaving, Depp, who as you know is partially blind in one eye, stood up and simply moved in the same direction as the Aquaman star, which is when Heard seemed to physically shudder and look terrified, even taking a step back as courtroom officials immediately turned towards Depp and put their hands up, as if to warn him to stay back or something. Johnny Depp then turned away and appeared to shrug and smile as if he had no idea why they were all in a huff. Amber was then led to the side of the room by the courtroom officials before Depp exited through the rear door for a cigarette during the 15-minute recess. For the most part, the former couple have avoided eye contact during this trial. During Amber's testimony, Depp was mostly looking down at a piece of paper or looking off to his legal team. Before this seemingly tense encounter, the actress had broken down in tears as she testified that Depp had attacked her in what Depp's legal team are calling the performance of her life. This same incident with the bottle that Amber spoke about was also the same time that Johnny's finger was severed, because according to Depp, Amber had thrown a liquor bottle at him, which ended up severing his finger. But Amber testified that she did not witness Depp's finger being cut off. While testifying and sobbing uncontrollably, she said, "At some point he's on top of me, screaming, 'I effing hate you, you ruined my effing life.' I'm on the countertop, he had me by the neck and was on top of me. I'm looking in his eyes and I don't see him anymore. It wasn't him, it was black. I haven't been so scared in my life. He was looking at me, I was trying to get through to him, to say in some way it was me, trying to get through to Johnny." She then added, "My head was bashing against the back of the bar and I couldn't breathe. I remember trying to get up to tell him he was really hurting me. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't get through to him. I couldn't get up." Amber then became overwhelmed with emotion and went on to say, "Next thing I remember, I was bent over backwards on the bar. I was staring at the blue light. My back was on the countertop. I thought he was punching me. I felt this pressure on my pubic bone and I could feel his arm moving. It looked like he was punching me. I could just feel this pressure." Adding, "I don't remember what I said. I just remember being really still, not wanting to move. I remember looking around the room, looking at all the broken bottles, broken glass, and I remember not wanting to move because I didn't know if it was broken. I didn't know if the bottle that he had inside me was broken." And according to Johnny Depp's team, they claim that the actress's tales of attacks by Depp have evolved with new and convenient details, and they plan on exposing her lies during their cross-examination.
Starting off at number 10 with one you should all know if you love sipping some good old tea, Kanye's Grammy incident.
Yo, Taylor, I'm really happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish, but Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time.
In one of the most famous unexpected outbursts of all time, Kanye West interrupted Taylor Swift's acceptance speech at the MTV VMAs in 2009. While Taylor was on stage accepting her award for Best Female Music Video, Kanye famously yelled, "Taylor, I'm really happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish. But Beyonce had one of the best music videos of all time." It's literally how he said it. Completely humiliating both himself and Swift in the process. Thankfully, he could blame the tirade on being wasted, or the world might have never forgiven him. Next at number 9, Ben Affleck. Now this one gets a little creepy. During a Ben Affleck interview in 2004 with Anne-Marie Laveau, where he was promoting his new movie Jersey Girl. On a side note, I love that movie. During the interview, Affleck was just straight up acting gross, commenting on the cleavage of the interviewer and asking why she covered up for him in this interview when her tits are usually out. They're also grossly cuddling on the couch while he continued to make some really nasty comments that honestly gave me secondhand embarrassment while watching. Many blamed his shameful behavior on him most likely being drunk. However, in 2017 the video resurfaced and Anne-Marie came out saying that the whole thing was staged and that people shouldn't feel bad for her as everything that happened was fully consented by her. Honestly, I'm not sure if I fully believe that, but either way I think Affleck would have had to have been drunk to agree to look that bad on TV. Next at number 8, Paula Abdul.
Listen, any publicity is good publicity. You gotta learn to eat it up and embrace it and say, Seattle had the best delusional people.
Oh, no!
During an interview with Q13 Fox to discuss the hit show American Idol, Paula Abdul was totally sloshed. In the interview, she can be seen slurring her words, giggling at everything, shuffling around in her chair, and just all around not acting like the Paula we're used to seeing on American Idol. Next at number 7, Danny DeVito on The View.
No, I mean, you know, the guy who...
Before the interview, DeVito admitted that he was hungover AF as he was out drinking with George Clooney the night before. Subtle little plug there. He also said that he had 7 limoncellos before the interview, and that they were finally catching up to him. He then starts talking about President Bush and making some crazy facial expressions and noises to imitate him. Then when he literally looks like he's either gonna fall asleep or pass out, Rosie O'Donnell brings him over to cuddle. Honestly, Danny DeVito is the best. This interview made me love him even more. In at number 6, Bill Murray.
Hillary Clinton.
Elizabeth Warren?
Yeah.
Get to that now.
Okay.
While the actor was waiting for his turn on the show, he took a tumble and fell off a stool.
Bill Murray is known for being one of the most iconic comedians of all time, but you might not know he's also iconic for having one of the craziest drunk interviews of all time. In 2015, he appeared on David Letterman's TV show where he's seen taking multiple shots of vodka on air. That's not the story though. Where things get crazy is when Murray then decides to go to MSNBC during a live broadcast and interrupts Lawrence O'Donnell's segment. Then when he finally sits down to wait to go on the show, he completely falls off one of those high chair stool things onto the ground. Then during the interview, he slurs like crazy while trying to answer simple questions. This is definitely one you have to see. Next at number 4, Stiuso. The jackass prankster and wild child Stiuso definitely lived up to his jackass reputation on Comedy Central's Too Late with Adam Carolla. Stiuso got so wasted backstage that he started yelling a bunch of swear words while also spitting and later into the segment attempting to rugby tackle the show's host Adam Carolla to the floor. Stiuso at one point also fell over and shattered a glass coffee table with his foot, slicing his leg open in the process. When Carolla tried to laugh off the craziness and try to rescue the show, it was proved that Stiuso could not be tamed, and in the end he had to be escorted out by security. After the insane interview, Stiuso said that he woke up and had no recollection of ever being on the show, but that he was insanely proud of himself for how funny it ended up being. I guess when slapstick humor is your specialty, this event could be considered something to be proud of. I'm not sure I think it is though. Next at number 3, Mariah Carey. I hope you guys remember the absolute train wreck that was Mariah Carey's performance at the 2016 New Year's Rockin' Eve Bash. But if you don't, we're here to give you a little reminder. Basically, she came out, missed tons of the dance moves, made it incredibly obvious she was lip syncing when the track was playing and she was literally just standing there. I bet plenty of network execs were definitely regretting not rehearsing after that mess. Then sliding on to number 2, TJ Miller. While TJ Miller, the funny man of Silicon Valley, was on Colbert for an interview, he made a complete ass of himself. During the insane interview, Miller smashes an egg on his face, much to Colbert's extreme annoyance, because he gets some of it on his jacket, and then finishes the segment by touching Colbert with his creepy, like, skeleton hands. Damn, Colbert has a lot more patience than I would have had. And lastly, taking the number 1 spot, Fergie. I'm giving Fergie the number 1 spot here, not because hers is the most popular, but honestly, I just think it's the funniest. During the Trevor Live Gala, Armie Hammer was presenting an interview when Fergie randomly appeared on stage. Hammer, because he was so confused, ended up giving her the mic, probably because he was not sure what the heck was going on. Anyway, she ended up calling herself Armie Hammer and then calling him Fergie and slurring her words while trying to talk. But after she sat back down, she wasn't done yet. When another performer walked off stage because of technical issues, Fergie jumped out of her seat at the chance and got on stage, unscripted, entertaining the crowd once more. I guess they should have had to have extra security on Fergie. Don't let her get too drunk, man, she gets out of control. Now starting off with number 10, Tiger Woods. Here's one that you might not have heard about, involving golf superstar Tiger Woods. During one of his golf competitions while waiting for his golf opponent Graham McDowell to tee off, Tiger Woods created a slight disruption after he broke some wind. It honestly sounds like a stroke of genius to me. What better way to mess with your opponents than to catch them off guard with a loud fart before their golf swing? After the moment in question, Tiger can be seen trying not to laugh his ass off, and we can't really blame him as that's anyone's natural reaction to an unexpected toot. Next at number 9, Cheryl Cole. While Cheryl Cole was a judge on the X Factor, there was a moment in the show while commenting on Cher Lloyd's performance where she briefly pauses, and you can hear that the deed has been done.
Your
sometimes pretend.
So she's the first person on this list to be named a serial tutor, the next one coming up soon. Cheryl said in an interview with The Sun that she has major anxiety around the subject now, as whenever someone around her farts, they think it must be her. She said, quote, "I always look around and try to work out who it was, and I see the eyes staring back at me. I know they're thinking, Cheryl Cole thinks it's okay to fart on a plane as she's special." And it's so not true. This issue haunts her so much that she actually started to dream up a new product that could prove to everyone that she isn't the one tooting all the time. She continued on in the interview with The Sun, quote, "There should be a sort of aerosol that can be sprayed into the air that would pinpoint the guilty person." Honestly, I would definitely be here for that, because there's been more than a few times in my life where I want to know who cut the cheese. Coming in at number 8, Regis Philbin. Regis Philbin is best known for hosting Live with Regis and Kelly and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but he is also known for having one of the most talked about farts on live TV of any celebrity. On one episode of Live with Regis and Kelly, the two are seen talking while Regis rips a quick one.
Anyway.
Kelly tries not to react but ends up laughing anyway. It's live TV, people, so I'm sure they're used to some things slipping out that they'd rather not have. In at number 7, Hillary Clinton. This celeb fart is another one up for debate. A lot of people think that Hillary Clinton passed some gas during the 2007 Democratic debate, while others think it just might have been some fuzziness with the sound or editing.
Controversial issues.
Either way, it's hilarious, come on. People have also speculated whether the video proof of the fart is real or not. And since Hillary is such a controversial figure, it would not be shocking that someone would try to pin a fart on her. In the video, Hillary is gearing up to answer a serious question, then all of a sudden you hear a slight fart and an uncomfortable look on her and some of the other panelists' faces. So I don't know, I'll leave this one up to you guys to review the evidence for yourselves. In at number 6, Wendy Williams. Wendy Williams is best known for being a wildly entertaining talk show host that is always spilling tea on her show. But one time, she got caught accidentally spilling something else. On one episode of her show, she is seen talking about Odell Beckham Jr., but then she starts sitting strangely, then all of a sudden stops talking so that everyone can hear a long and slow toot. But the story did not end there. After the story blew up on social media, Wendy came out trying to convince everyone that it was actually not a fart. She followed up about the situation on her show, saying she only leaned over like that because it's comfortable, not because she was farting. She then continued saying that she has never farted even once on the show, and even went so far to blame the guest who was on the show that day, who was a chemist. And she legit made him film a segment to try and prove he was the one that did it. They claim that the chemist was messing up pipes and equipment backstage, and that's where the noise came from. Honestly, the fact that they were trying to cover it up so hard just proves to me that she 100% dealt it. Now halfway through at number 5, Megyn Kelly. During her time on Fox News, Megyn Kelly was a victim to the on-air machine when she loudly farted on live TV during her segment.
Your spouse isn't gonna want to do that.
She basically owned up to the fart instead of trying to pass it off, as right after it happened, she started laughing uncontrollably, and then farted again while still laughing. At least she made light of it instead of trying to awkwardly pass it off like some other people on this list. In at number 4, Larry King. I'm not 100% sure that this one is actually a fart, but on his huge TV show Larry King Live, Larry was accused of farting while doing an interview. If you listen closely, he pauses and then you hear a little something.
See any optimism here?
But plenty of people in the comments of the video are saying that it was most likely just a wooden chair moving or something else non-bodily function related. I guess the world might never know the truth about this one. Next on to number 3, Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi Goldberg is infamous for a few things, but most recently she's been the go-to person on The View for passing gas. The host has farted not once, not twice, but 3 recorded times on The View. Honestly, with that record, I wouldn't be surprised if it was more. But the noble thing about Whoopi is that she always owns up to it and makes light of the situation when it happens. Dr. Oz was even on the show talking about passing gas, and when he asked all the hosts who had farted in the short time he had been there, Whoopi excitedly raised her hand and yelled, "Me." Then she literally farted again. If you don't believe me, watch this. Yeah, go ahead. Well, at least if you're gonna be the person on The View known for farting, do with confidence like Whoopi. Now in at number 2, Julianne Hough. Julianne Hough has had not 1, but 2 different incidents of cutting the cheese on live TV. One was on Dancing with the Stars. During her post-performance interview with her partner, you hear a little toot, then Julianne and her partner bursting out laughing at the incident.
Log on to abc.com, do whatever you have to.
Which is a dead giveaway that it actually happened. The other incident happened when she was hosting America's Got Talent. During her commentary on the performer that was on stage, you can hear an audible fart.
Love you.
and then the other judges on the show laughing about what they think just happened. And finally taking the coveted #1 spot, Taylor Swift. And last but not least, the country sweetheart herself, Miss Taylor Swift. In 2015, during an interview at the VMAs where she was surrounded by her model squad friends, Taylor was enthusiastically announcing the premiere of her Wildest Dreams music video when she kinda squatted out of excitement, and then the dirty deed was said to have taken place. There are a few things here that make us pretty darn sure that Taylor did indeed fart, as if you watch the video, the odd squat-like movement seems like something that someone would do if they were trying to cover something up. Also, the look on Karlie Kloss's face, who was standing directly behind her after the alleged toot, kinda speaks for itself.
Starting us off at number 10, Dakota Johnson. Now, this is hands down one of the most notorious Ellen interviews out there simply because it was just painfully awkward. Starting things off, Ellen wishes Dakota a happy 30th birthday and then asks how the party was, reminding her that she wasn't invited. Johnson quickly jumps in saying, I quote, "Actually no, that's not true, Ellen, you were invited," before explaining to Ellen what had actually happened. As for Johnson, the last time she was on the show, Ellen gave her a hard time for not inviting the daytime show host to her last party. However, Dakota didn't invite Ellen because she was under the impression that Ellen didn't like her. With that being said, Johnson then tells Ellen that she did end up inviting her to the party, but Ellen was a no-show. Ellen denied that she was ever invited until admitting she forgot and made a joke about the whole situation. It was such a foot-in-the-mouth scenario, I can't even begin to tell you. Johnson tells Ellen, I quote, "But I did invite you and you didn't come," to which Ellen, appearing genuinely surprised, replies, "This time you invited me? Are you sure? I don't think so." Johnson doubled down with, "Ask anybody. Ask Jonathan, your producer." Then when Ellen asked around why she didn't go, someone off-screen told her she was out of town. Her reply, "Oh yeah, I had that thing." Oh boy. Moving on to number 9, Wanda Sykes. Now, in our list of people who should replace Ellen, I actually included Wanda because I think she's hilarious. She'd make a great daytime host, but instead they went with the first winner of American Idol. That's who is now hosting a daytime show. A singer. And I'm honestly, guys, I'm not even trying to insult Kelly Clarkson. More so just, like, crazy how this industry really shakes out, you know what I mean? I know she had her own daytime show for a while, so it makes sense, but how did she go from American Idol to taking over Ellen? Jeez. So back to Wanda. So while on the Ellen show, Wanda brought up a tour that Ellen had recently gone on, although it wasn't really all that much of a tour. Either way, Ellen denied she ever toured, claiming she'd remember if she did. That's when Wanda pulled out the official merchandise from the tour, a sweater reading the Ellen DeGeneres Relatable Tour. Real relatable, Ellen. However, given that there's only 4 dates, Sykes took the opportunity to poke fun at Ellen, telling her 4 shows would be a regular weekend on her schedule. On top of that, 3 of the 4 venues were cities in California, which further proved this wasn't much of a tour at all. Awkward. Now at number 8, Hasim Minhaj. I think we've all come to learn a golden rule in life is when you mispronounce someone's name and they correct you, you don't correct them back. It's like if someone calls me Bronstein, it's Steen. So if someone said, "Hey Bronstein," and I said it's Bronstein, they wouldn't say, "No, it's Stein." But that's exactly what Ellen did, and when I tell you, it was one of the most uncomfortable situations on TV. Oh boy. When the interview started, she said Minhaj's name incorrectly, to which he said no, and she literally said yes. And then he replied again no, to which Ellen replied, "Really?" He would go on to explain how he wanted to address this on national TV because people have often gotten his name wrong, and he wanted to take the opportunity to teach people how to properly pronounce it. He even joked about the entire situation, explaining, I quote, "When I first started doing comedy, people were like, you should change your name." I'm like, I'm not gonna change my name. If you could pronounce Ansel Elgort, you could pronounce Hasim Minhaj. He also touched on this during an episode of his show Patriot Act, responding to an audience member who asked a similar question. Minhaj admitted at first he did change his name to Sean as a stage name, but realized that just wasn't it. I quote him saying, "You'll have people who are like, this is my Chinese name, this is my American name." But I'm like, dude, F that, your name's your name. Bringing us to my favorite number 7, Katy Perry. Once upon a time, Katy Perry and her ex-husband, Russell Brand, had a very public relationship. We knew when they got married and of course when they had a very messy breakup. Yet it seems Ellen forgot all about the whole marriage part when the two were playing a custom game of Would You Rather. For the segment of the show, the game was titled Will You Parry Me, leading to Katy making a joke about her previous failed marriage. Asking Ellen, do I have to get married again? The daytime host told Katy she was never married. You don't do that, Ellen. You just don't. Katy then reminds Ellen about her relationship with Russell Brand after Ellen, appearing to generally not remember who she was married to, asked Katy who she tied the knot with in the first place. It was so uncomfortable and Katy made a hand gesture that maybe they could cut the segment from airing, with the singer wrapping up by telling Ellen, I quote, "Remember you gave me some wedding gifts on the show?" Now we're all human, but I mean, how could you forget, someone getting married, especially if you give them a gift on your show? And it's not like Katy and Russell's breakup was under the radar either. It's like this was all very public news, so I don't know. Now to number 6, Justin Timberlake, a good friend of Ellen's. These two love to dance and entertain. When they're seen on air together, it genuinely seems like they're best of friends and enjoy each other's company a lot. With that being said, you'd think if they're such good friends, Ellen would know the words to some of JT's most popular tracks. More specifically, when the song Can't Stop the Feeling was on every radio station, in every supermarket, and playing out of the speakers of every minivan, it seems Ellen just never picked up on the lyrics. When the track first came out, Ellen admitted to her audience and viewers at home that she sent a clip of herself singing along with JT. However, as Justin exposed Ellen, he explained, I quote, "My favorite part was when you were like, it's just electric, just electric, just electric." I was like, that's not the words. For those of you who don't know, the lyrics are just imagined 3 times, but apparently Ellen had the electric slide on her mind. Halfway at 5, Mariah Carey. Back in 2008, while Carey was on The Ellen Show, there were tons of rumors that she was pregnant with her husband at the time, Nick Cannon. So to no surprise, Ellen wanted to be the first one to break the news or story on TV before anyone else. Only issue here is, like, some women aren't very comfortable discussing their early months of pregnancy due to the high risk of miscarriage, usually leading to people making their announcements after their first trimester when the risk of any issues is significantly reduced. However, Ellen seemed to forget about that etiquette and instead pushed Carey to answer on air, which she really didn't want to. After trying to change the subject, Ellen would pour 2 glasses of champagne almost to test Carey. At the time, Mariah said, "I can't believe you did this to me, Ellen. This is peer pressure." What Ellen is doing, this is peer pressure. Ellen replied, "Let's toast to you not being pregnant." When the singer took a very small sip, DeGeneres excitedly announced, "You're pregnant." After Carey confirmed the news, she would unfortunately suffer a miscarriage just weeks later. Speaking with Vulture about the aftermath, Mariah explained, I quote, "I was extremely uncomfortable with that moment is all I can say. And I really have had a hard time grappling with the aftermath." Now at number 4, Priyanka Chopra. It seems Ellen has a thing with not responding to people's invitations to celebrations in their lives. So when Nick Jonas, who's a very good friend of Ellen's, as we know the Jonas Brothers have their own bathroom in the studio, regardless, moving on. When he was getting married to Chopra, obviously they invited Ellen, but as you can imagine, she pulled the whole, "oh, I never got an invitation" thing. Here we go again. So of course, the ceremony came up over the course of the interview, in which Priyanka explained it was a very small ceremony. That's when Ellen made note that, as small as it was, she was still surprised that she wasn't invited, given her relationship with Nick. That's when Priyanka explained she was surprised Ellen didn't show up, to which Ellen obviously denied receiving an invitation. Chopra explained, I quote, "I was like, we're not good enough for Ellen." And you could hear Ellen saying there was no invite through a somewhat forced smile. It was like, no, there's no invite. It was so uncomfortable. It's very awkward. It seemed like Nick was being dragged into this between the two of them, and it's just bad. Anyways, could have been all fun, who knows, but Chopra went on to say she spoke with Nick about it. I quote, "She wouldn't come to India. She didn't even respond anymore. Nick, you've had such a great relationship with her. I was very offended for him, but I'm just a wife. I don't know anything." Ellen replied by quoting the "I'm just a wife" while laughing and then changed the subject real quick. It was actually very uncomfortable to watch. It just, I don't know. You could tell, like, just wasn't a good mesh. At number 3, Justin Bieber. A while ago, Bieber was photographed while vacationing in Bora Bora with his on-again, off-again girlfriend at the time, Jade Pierce. For those of you who don't remember, the paparazzi got a full frontal shot of Biebs. Nothing was covering him up. He's wearing absolutely nothing. Fully, exposed. Is that considered stalking? It should be. Is taking photos of someone who is nude in their private residence illegal? Don't believe so, but when you're a celebrity, it seems no rules apply. Both good and bad. So naturally, the photo came up with Ellen asking who the girl in the background was. More specifically, she asks Justin if it's his girlfriend, to which he replies, "No, she's just a friend." Ellen then asks, "You're just naked with your friend?" To which Bieber, clearly embarrassed and now covering his face, calls out Ellen saying, "Why you gotta put me on the spot like this?" It was just such a leave the kid alone moment, but as we know, Ellen loves to push boundaries and make her guests uncomfortable. I guess there's some sort of humor in that, but at the same time, imagine being the guest. Just, ugh. Bringing us to number 2, Taylor Swift. You guys remember her? I'm just kidding. Relax. Don't get all mad in the comments. This was a bit of an awkward exchange when Ellen told Taylor Swift about the time she was dating Zac Efron, which she never actually did. The two were on the show together as guests, and Ellen probably just assumed there was something going on there, given that they were both young, rich, famous, and taking over Hollywood. At least it seemed that way at the time, but now Zac's down in Australia living his best life ever. I wish I could too. Irrelevant. Point is, when Ellen made a comment about the two dating, Taylor corrected her with, I quote, "We actually never dated." To which Ellen replied, "Yes, you did." So, moving on. Obviously, she meant it in a fun, lighthearted way, and it got laughs from everyone, Taylor included. But it was still a little awkward, especially when she kept making jokes about how the two did, at one point, date each other. It was one of those jokes that, the first time it worked, but she was beating a dead horse at this point. Wow. That's a very morbid saying. I've never actually said that out loud. That's a very bad saying. Anyways, things went from bad to worse when Ellen started going through a list of men Taylor was potentially with, kind of turning it into a game, which you don't do that. Number 1, Blake Shelton. Shelton is a regular guest on The Ellen Show and appeared on the show in May of 2019 before appearing again as a guest just 7 months later in December of the same year. And the first time around, Ellen poked fun at Blake, giving him a countdown clock for when he'd be asking his girlfriend at the time, Gwen Stefani, to marry him. When Shelton was on the show again in December, Ellen brought up the gag, but Shelton put her on the spot. I quote him saying, "But you didn't give it to me. I walked backstage and somebody back there was like, 'Hey, thanks for being on the show. Could I have that?' And they took it. So I haven't seen it." Time didn't really start ticking at that moment. Whoever your next guest was, you replaced the picture and did the same crap to them and embarrassed them. And he was fully on the money, because Ellen did it to J-Lo, who would actually end up getting engaged, but, well, as we know, that recently fell apart.
And at number 10, Kylie's stripper pole. We don't have to wonder what Kylie's most embarrassing moment on the show was, because she actually opened up about it in one interview. When asked about her most embarrassing moment, she replied, quote, probably the pole. Her BFF at the time, Jordan Woods, chimed in saying, quote, that's my favorite episode. With Kylie replying, quote, of course that's your favorite episode. The stripper pole was so embarrassing. I wish it never happened. And if you forgot this moment from the show, it's actually from the show's first season. Kim got her mother Chris a pole to put in her bedroom, and she even hired someone to show Chris how to use it. But Kendall and Kylie got in on the fun and started doing crazy moves with the pole, you know, classic kid stuff. And although I'm pretty sure everyone knows it was just childish behavior, I guess Kylie really doesn't like that side of her out for the world to see. And at number 9, Kim's earring. I think we all know about this now infamous moment that got Kim Kardashian into a lot of controversy. For the lowdown on the incident, the family was vacationing in a beautiful tropical destination with Kim's boyfriend Kris Humphries. And as a joke, Kris decided to throw Kim off their balcony into the beautiful ocean below them. And when Kim came up from the water, she was joking about how she hit her head on the way down. But then when she was touching her head to make sure it was fine, Kim realized that she had just lost her diamond earring in the water. She had just gotten the earrings and they were valued at $75,000. She ended up crying all the way to her mother's room, while Kris and her younger sisters tried to find it in the ocean. During all the commotion, Kourtney came out of her room and said the infamously memed quote, Kim, there's people that are dying. The earring ended up being found, but this is definitely one of Kim's most bratty moments on the show. And at number 8, Kris's coffee. Early on in the show, Kris felt that she was not getting enough alone time with her then husband, now Caitlyn Jenner. So Kris ended up making a special coffee that had Viagra in it to get her husband in the mood. However, that coffee didn't end up going to the right person, and Rob Kardashian ended up drinking it instead. And Rob was later horrified when he ended up getting, for hours after. He even enlisted the help of Scott Disick at one point, who told him that he needed to go to the hospital immediately. Understandably, Rob was very embarrassed and confused about the whole situation, especially when the doctor told him this only could have been possible if he drank erectile dysfunction pills. Rob denied doing this, but Kris later had to admit that Rob did take those pills because Rob drank the wrong coffee. And at number 7, Scott brings a woman on a trip. While Kourtney and Scott were on and off again, Scott decided to sneak a woman into their family trip with Kourtney and their kids, which is so disrespectful on just so many levels. And sadly, this actually happened on 2 different occasions. The first time this happened in Costa Rica, the family confronted Scott. When he didn't take responsibility for the behavior, all 3 of the sisters ended up throwing drinks on him. The next time, Kim actually planned a trip for Scott and their friends for Scott to get over his breakup. And then on that trip, he decides to sneak another girl into the trip. Kim ended up finding that girl and confronting her in the bathroom. And all I'm gonna say is do not mess with Kim Kardashian. She was extremely scary in that scene. And at number 6, Barbara Walters' interview. This interview will probably go down in history as the most awkward Kardashian interview ever. Barbara Walters interviewed the family for her annual 10 Most Fascinating People special in 2011, and she did not hold back. The first question she asked the family was, quote, you don't really act, you don't sing, you don't dance, you don't have any, forgive me, any talent. Walter said to the group as they nodded in agreement. Quote, we're still entertaining people, Khloe said, with Kim later adding, quote, I think it's more of a challenge for you to go on a reality show and get people to fall in love with you for being you. So there's definitely a lot more pressure, I think, for being famous, for being ourselves. Walters then went in on the sisters and asked more about their most embarrassing moments, and even though Walters was pretty savage in the interview, I think the sisters actually handled it very well. Halfway at number 5, Kim's divorce. Kim got married to Kris Humphries in probably one of the most lavish weddings I have ever seen. But after the marriage, things fell apart very quickly, and Kim ended up filing for divorce only 72 days after they married. And the scene in their New York spinoff where Kim explains her feelings to Kourtney and Scott is heartbreaking. And you can tell that she's so ashamed that she's admitting that she needs a divorce. However, anyone who watched their New York spinoff after they were married probably expected the divorce anyways. Many people wondered after the fact if the entire relationship was just for publicity, which Kim and the family family vehemently denied. But after the entire relationship imploded, I'm sure Kim regretted filming most of the aspects of their relationship, which was made clear by the fact that she didn't film her wedding to Kanye. However, they did include some homemade footage in the show. And at number 4, Kylie's fancy dinner. There's probably one scene of Kylie's reality show, Life of Kylie, that she wishes was never aired. And it's from a lavish dinner they had while in Peru. The dinner was made with Peruvian specialties, and like with any high-end dinner, the portions were small, but extravagant. However, Kylie just wanted some real food and begged her mother to leave so they could have a real dinner. But Kris knew that wasn't possible and it would be far too rude to just leave in the middle of dinner like that. So Kris told her to play ball and suck it up. And even though I get where Kylie is coming from, it's definitely not okay to disrespect their food and culture on national TV. And at number 3, Kim cries ziplining. I'm sure this is one thing that Kim did not want to be on the show, but it was too good to not include. While the family was in Thailand for a trip, the entire family went ziplining up in the mountains. But when it came Kim's turn to zipline, she did not want to go and started crying and screaming hysterically that she couldn't go down the zipline. Her family tried to push her to go, but it only made things worse. She ended up walking down the hill while the rest of her family went on ziplining. And at number 2, Kris Jenner's grunting. In one episode of the show, Kim and Kourtney play tennis with their mom, Kris. And they discover that Kris is very vocal while she plays tennis. And by vocal, I mean that she grunts incredibly loudly when she hits the ball. The sisters obviously make fun of their mom for this and jokes that these are the noises she probably makes in the bedroom. Kim even sets up a tennis match for the whole family later on so everyone can hear Kris's grunts in action. And I'm sure after that episode, Kris probably didn't grunt while playing tennis again. And finally, number 1, Kylie pooped her pants. I'm pretty sure the name with this one really says it all. Thankfully, this moment was never aired on TV, but Kylie and Kendall opened up in one interview about their most embarrassing moments ever. And this moment came to mind quickly for Kylie, and she shyly mentions the time that she, quote, shit herself while she was younger, while Kendall starts laughing like crazy. Kylie says she was about 5 years old at the time. Then Kendall gave more detail, saying that Kylie was in the pool at the time, and when she got out and was going upstairs to use the bathroom, she left a trail of poop from the pool to her room. And I honestly can't believe that they actually shared that story. That is amazing. Kylie's very brave for sharing that.